Going back to that ATV crash at your estate in England, take me through what you remember from that day.
Okay, I was in Los Angeles, and I was working there, and I get the phone call that Ozzy is in an ambulance on the way to the hospital.
What I remember, we were filming a show for the Osbournes reality thing. I went onto my lane, I got on my quad bike. I'd gone down an embankment, which I've done every day, and bike went up in the air, landed on me. The next minute I know, I was in hospital.
But what happened was, because the crew that were filming the Osbournes got some of it, he bounced up. The security guard went to him and got him up and put him on the back of the bike, of another bike that the security guard was on, and drove him round to the front of the house. The emergency services had sent a helicopter for Ozzy, because we live in the countryside, and we've got like a small forest in our land, and they were sending a helicopter, but the security guards put him in the car and drove him to the hospital, and there was a helicopter on the way. And they told us that the worst thing you can ever do is move somebody after an accident like that. But Ozzy doesn't remember any of it because he was in shock, and they weren't sure of his injuries. And then the doctor called me and then said about his arm. The main artery to his arm had been severed, and there was no blood flow, no oxygen in his arm, and they're trying to save his arm. And then as soon as I heard that, I was just gone. I am just like, no, I just can't. And I got on a plane literally 2 hours later, flew to London. Everybody in England was just, so devastated. The police met me at the airport. They got me to the hospital within, 30 minutes, and, everybody was rallying around Ozzy. And they'd put Ozzy in an induced coma for 8 days so that he would be out of pain. And when the first time I saw Ozzy, he was in a ward full of people that were in comas, and, tubes and bottles coming out of everywhere, and one side of him there was a bottle of blood where he was dripping, the other side it's full of pee, and I'm just like, this is a nightmare. I'm gonna wake up in a minute.
Your hand.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I smashed my clavicle. Surgeon there was brilliant. I was in and out in no time. I checked myself out of hospital.
Do you remember what the rehab recovery process entailed for that?
I came home, I had a nurse for about a week, and then I was back on my feet again.
What was the scariest moment for you during that entire time?
Just literally walking in that hospital and seeing him with all these tubes coming out of everywhere, and he still had dirt in his hair. Because of his long hair, they'd operated on him, but there were like clumps of dirt in the ends of his hair, and I'm just like, I just can't believe it.
What was the moment where you realized everything was going to be okay?
Probably about 3 days later, they said that all his levels were coming back to normal, and his heart rate and all of that, and his blood pressure was getting better. And they said that if they kept him in that state for much longer, they would have to do a tracheotomy. And I said, no way, you're going to wake him up. So, after a week and a bit, they woke him up, and slowly. But it was really weird because he'd been dreaming that time that he was in the coma. And he was dreaming all of this craziness, and he thought that it was real. He didn't realize that it was a dream.
Like what?
I was in a plane with some other rock star when the plane had a hot tub in the back, and I'm in me in the back of a plane in a hot tub with another rock star. And I'm like, no, I've been sat here at the hospital. I've not been anywhere. And all this craziness.
And the long-term issues that stem from that crash, you think would be what?
He was like fearful. He never wanted to get on a motorbike again. And he'd always had motorbikes, dirt bikes, motorbikes, and, you know, four-wheelers, all
Yeah.
dead. He loved it. And he never got on one again, ever.
Did I read short-term memory loss?
Oh, he still thought he was in, you know, I was in the back of a bloody jet, you know, in the hot tub. So he was convinced that all of the stuff that he'd been dreaming was reality.
For how long?
Oh, a good while, probably about 4 or 5 months. And Ozzy's eldest son was getting married, and that's why Ozzy was in England, and I was going to join him a few days later
Yeah.
for Ozzy's son's wedding. And he dreamt he was at the wedding, and the wedding was great. Of course, he never got to the wedding. And all the things that happened at the wedding, and it's like, we weren't there, we never went. It's just amazing what your mind does, because you're like, the times I've thought when people are in comas, do they dream? Do they remember? And it's weird.
Right.
You do.